Hi, I'm Olivia, and I'm the Witch of Wonderlust here on YouTube and on Instagram, and today I have another book review for you. First, I am drinking this Mountain Huckleberry Tea by Columbia Cates Tea House. It was actually given to me by a friend, so thank you, Lindsay. I don't think you watch my channel, but I appreciate it. It's delicious. I will have that linked down in the description below, but nonetheless, let's get started. So I have my notes. I have all the things that I thought when I was reading these books, and these books are provided from the Witches box. They have a book subscription box, so they send you 2 witchcraft or spiritual books every single month. They dive a little deeper past the Witchcraft 101, so I've been learning a lot, and it definitely branches out in things that I probably wouldn't have read about or books that I wouldn't have picked up originally, and so far I haven't really been disappointed. There are books that I've been like, that was good, and there have been books that I was like, this is amazing. So yeah, thank you to the Witches Box for sponsoring this video and allowing me to gather this knowledge and share this knowledge, but that link is down below if you wish to check that out. So things are getting a little spicy. These 2 books are about sex magic, and I think it's, the springtime, and they were like, this is a good idea. So these 2 books were sent to me for the month of March, and the 2 books that I have is Sex, Sorcery and Spirit by Jason Miller. We all know that I really like this author. I want to say all of his books now, but I think I have all of his books. And the second one is Sex Magic Rituals for the Radical Living and Loving, Igniting Intimacy by Rev. Rowan Bombadil. Who is letting me do this? Who's allowing this to happen? Okay, so the first book I'm going to review for you is The Sex, Sorcery and Spirit by Jason Miller. So if you have seen my other reviews, there was a box that Witches Box sent me that had 2 of his books, and I believe it was Spellcrafting and Financial Sorcery. It was those 2, which are by far some amazing books. If you haven't already checked those out, I highly recommend both of those, and I'll link those down below. But also I made a review on those. So I love all of Jason's writings. I like how he writes. I like the voice that he uses. He writes in a way that's easy to digest, it's easy to read, and it's pretty relatable, and it's down to earth. Gives you a good amount of magical, but making sure that you keep the mundane in mind. And he's basically just overall a very good teacher. He's definitely one of the top authors in my book. This particular book seemed a little flat for him, which is not a bad thing. It was less motivating for me to read, and I think the reason for that was that there was a large lack of personal experience, because reading all of his other books, there was always that personal experience of like, oh, when I was younger and I was, dabbling in this is what happened, so here's some do's and don'ts. And he would give you kind of some past experiences, he would give you some more personable insight, whereas this particular book didn't have a lot of that. It was much more technical, it was much more textbook style, which isn't a bad thing. It was just more like textbook style. There's not a lot of emotion that goes into feeling when you're reading it, so it's harder to stick. And obviously I don't expect him to be putting a lot of personal experience into this particular book that is incredibly personal, but it is still loaded with information. It gives you different breathwork techniques, gives you different meditations, gives you a bunch of different rituals and how to use sex magic in order to manifest. And he does give you those building blocks, which if you don't already know, especially from my past book reviews and all of that jazz and my whole rant about how foundations in your practice is everything. Building blocks are so important, because once you have the foundation, you're able to build and build and build on top of that. And with any skill, like if you're playing guitar, how are you going to learn how to play that really complicated song when you don't understand how to do a simple C or G or F chord? It just doesn't, it doesn't make sense. There is a lot of instructions in this book. I really do like the way it's set up, because it is very much textbook style. So this is a very good reference book. I really liked the fact that it's very direct. There is no fluff. There's no, I think more modern ebooks with sex magic is all about, self-love, and not that that's a bad thing, but it's just very fluffy, and it's more of like a self-help book rather than an actual technique reference book, if that makes sense. So I really did like this book either way. It was just a little different from what I was expecting reading his previous books. So the next one, that one was kind of short, but the next one, Igniting Intimacy, there's a little bit of difference in the size. Both of them are packed with information. This one is a little more modern, so it does focus more on the self. However, it was not the fluffiness that I was talking about, how it's more of self-help. This one is not like that. There is a lot of focusing on the self. There is much more playfulness. There's more exercises that really involves connecting with yourself first instead of jumping straight into all of the other, stuff. The large ritualistic rituals and all that jazz. This one does cover a lot of the same techniques, a lot of the same breathwork techniques, exercises, and meditations as Jason Miller's book, but one thing I do really like is that when this particular book breaks it down, it tells you when to use a certain breath work. Jason Miller does go into this a little bit with his book, but this one literally breaks down when to do it and then how to do it. So why would you be doing this breath work? What is the goal? What's the intention of doing this breath work, this meditation, etc., what situations you would use this in. And I think that that's really helpful because sometimes you might just think, oh, well, this is the only one I know. I'm going to default into this breath work, into this exercise, into this technique, when in reality, it might not be helping you or helping you to the extent that you need. And maybe this other exercise, this other technique, breath work, whatever, may be more beneficial. And that is kind of how this book breaks it down. Igniting Intimacy is also written with a little bit more of a lighthearted voice. It has much more of a lighthearted vibe to it. There's a little more playfulness and a little bit of just like, you know what? Here's the things that you can just try out and figure it out and see where it goes from there. And I really like that take. I feel like that is my personal take on kind of everything of, while there is a sense of seriousness, of making sure that you don't cross any boundaries, making sure that you're not pushing yourself in a place that you shouldn't be, or things like that in all aspects of life. I do think that in all aspects of life, there should be a sense of playfulness. There should be a sense of lightheartedness. I don't think that everything should be taken so seriously, because at the end of the day, nobody makes it out alive, right? There is a good amount of humor peppered in as well, which I really enjoyed. Something that I did like was that this book did involve a lot of personal experience. And of course they're vague and they're not going to give you all the, steamy details. It's not fan fiction. But they do talk a lot about their personal experiences and their own journey, which I really like reading about. I really like knowing about other people's journey in certain aspects of, practicing, because everything is so incredibly different. So then you don't feel the need to go one certain way. You don't feel the need to make your journey in learning about, herbal magic or sex magic in a specific way and making that journey look a specific way, because at the end of the day, we all have totally different paths and it's going to look completely different. One thing that I really do like is that this one goes a little deeper into, I would say, shadow. So a little bit of shadow work in here. There are journal prompts, and I don't think that they're exclusively journal prompts, but you can use them as journal prompts. You can also use them as meditation, as something that you can meditate on. But this does go more into ourselves rather than just the technical aspects of the sex magic itself and the rituals and the spells, which is what Sex, Sorcery, and Spirit touched on pretty much the length of the book. So overall, I can completely understand why the Witch's Box chose both of these books together, because they complement each other so well. Both of them, I think, are amazing reference books, but they have completely different vibes. They have completely different, information and approach to that information and an approach on teaching that information. So I would highly recommend both of these books. While the Sex, Sorcery, and Spirit is definitely more of a textbook style, of a reference point, there is so much information in there, and that there's definitely plenty of that that's going to be going in my grimoire. And then the Igniting Intimacy is much more of a shadow experience. While it does have so much information about sex magic and using that with yourself or with a partner or with multiple partners, it gives you all of that information, as well as making sure to touch base and checking in and making sure that you are checking in with yourself while you're exploring this side of sex magic spiritually, emotionally, and physically. Both of these books are really good about touching on the serious side, because I did make a little bit of a heated video about, toxic people in the spiritual community. That's definitely a thing. Definitely Jason Miller goes into, he's got like a good paragraph that he says it so well. Let me find it and read it because I like it. Here's the particular paragraph that I really like. To sum it up, don't do things that you are not comfortable with. If you are in a group or with a teacher who views all women or all men as naturally having either a submissive or dominant role, leave. If you are with a teacher who wants you to have sex in a way that is to counter your sexual orientation, leave. If your teacher insists on having sex as a part of a teaching method, leave. If a teacher tells you that you are his or hers from a former life, that he or she has been waiting for you, or any other kind of trip like that, leave. Of course, there's nothing wrong to engage with these activities as long as you want to engage with them. It can be very fulfilling, enlightening, and empowering to be submissive or dominant, to stretch the bounds of your programming by having sex outside of your natural orientation, or even to have sex as a part of a teaching/learning method, as long as you want to. If you don't want to, don't let anyone stop you. If you don't want to, don't let anyone force or coerce you. So that, I think, is a perfect way to sum it up. I do think that this is a little bit of a touchy subject for the spiritual community just because there's so much stigma that goes around sex magic, and in reality, it's just like anything else with magic. You can literally use anything to manifest anything. So, you know, if there are ways to use crystals and incense for malintention, whereas there are definitely ways to use it for good as well. Literally anything else. So I do think that the more you know, the better. And at the end of the day, if this isn't something that you're into, then just scrap it. Nobody's asking you to do it. And if they are, leave. While I think both of these books are wonderful, I do think that this one is a little more into the intermediate realm, whereas if you are somebody who is really curious and is just now learning about sex magic and is just kind of wanting to like dip their toe in, this is a huge handbook, and I think this is a really great place to start because, you know, having the technical aspects is great and all, but if you don't, you know, have it all together within yourself, things get much more complicated on the outside. So igniting intimacy, I think, would be my first recommendation for somebody who has never tried or dabbled or even like read about sex magic, whereas Sex, Sorcery, and Spirit is a really good reference to add upon that. Either way, both of them are wonderful additions to my library, so thank you, The Witch's Box, again for sponsoring this video. I love working with you. And yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this book review, but that's all for this video. Leave a like, it's the easiest way to support me and any of your other YouTube creators. Hit the notification bell if you want to keep up with my videos, because YouTube is not good at telling you when I upload. And there are other ways to support me and to support this channel down in the description if that's something that's interesting to you. But we also have a wonderful community. We have Discord servers that are both linked down below. Everybody's so nice, they help each other out, so if you have any other questions that you want to ask any other people in the community, that's a great way to go. We also welcome people who aren't witchy, so if you're just like wanting people to hang out with, then definitely check out the Discord server. The community is on some forums linked down below as well, and the hashtag Wonderlust Coven on Instagram. We are doing a 30-day challenge if you want jump into that. That's on my Instagram. It's hashtag 30 days in, and it's just something to keep you busy and creative if you're bored out of your mind in quarantine or self-isolation. So check that out if that sounds interesting to you. And yeah, that's it. Whew, man, I'm getting good at this like YouTube wrap-up thing. It's getting there. Not there, but it's getting there. Anyway, that is all for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, best of luck, be kind to each other, and may your gods treat you as you've treated others. Bye.